This is a RGB vertical mouse, and it's supposed to be more ergonomically designed in order to help you refrain from some carpal tunnel issues. If you're a long-term gamer or if you're just working a lot, this could help a lot. So what we're going to do today is we're going to unbox this, and then we are going to hook it up to the computer. I'm going to show you guys that, and then after that we're going to go over some tech specs. So first, let's take it out of the box. Like I said, this is a RGB wired vertical mouse, so it stands vertically, straight up and down. There's just this flap here at the top. Classically, I forgot my knife, so we're going to just rip it open. I'm going to take it out of here. And we see that it's got some bubble wrap, this little rest or stand for it. We got a classic twisty tie. We're going to untwist that. Get it out of the bubble wrap. And it is a really, really weirdly shaped looking mouse. So this thing does stand straight up. And it's got this weird design, but there's a couple click buttons here. You can click this one down or up. That's where your thumb is going to sit. And on the side we got a wheel. And we got two more clicky buttons over here. Of course, our advertisement, JTech Digital. I like the J in that. And then underneath we have the on-off switch. We have some of these pads that it can slide easily across. And we got a button down here. Classic USB-A cable. Nothing super fancy there. And if I put my hand on it, it feels a little strange. Of course, you're used to a traditional mouse, so this is going to feel a little bit different, but it does feel strange. Where the thumb sits, or at least where my thumb sits, it seems to be right in between the buttons, so I'm not clicking them, but I do have a pretty wide thumb, so if I just tap my thumb down, just move it slightly either direction, I can hit either one of those buttons pretty easily. If you have smaller fingers, that might be a little bit more difficult. On the other side, where your middle finger sits and your ring finger sits, that portion of it again is really easy to tap. So you move this mouse, back and forth like this, so your hand is not sitting on top of the mouse, it's now sitting this direction. And I can honestly say that this does not feel too bad. It actually feels pretty decent. So what we're going to do now, you also have this little resting stand actually. We'll talk about that. There's some grooves in the bottom of this, and this just sits inside of here. And then it pops up like that. And this could be an extender actually. If you put your palm on top of it, it actually feels pretty good. So I actually dig that. That feels really nice to move around. It actually feels super, super comfortable. How we're going to interact with it, it's something that we're going to have to get used to because we're not used to using a mouse like this, but I think that overall it's definitely going to help. I don't feel like my wrist is strained at all here, and I feel like it will slide real easy. It does feel a little awkward right now, but I think that's something that we'll be able to get over. So we're going to plug it in, check it out, see how it works. Okay guys, we are back, and we are now using this mouse instead of our normal mouse. We got a program loaded up here, Paint, and we're going to check it out, see if it's easy to use. So in order to left click, you have to tap this top button here. So if we left click there, I'm just trying to move it around, trying to draw somewhat of a circle. It's super sensitive to movement, so it does pick up as I move very, very quickly. I'm sure you can change that in settings, but it doesn't feel too bad. If I move around the screen here, it feels pretty good on my wrist. The lower button doesn't seem to be doing anything in this program, but this should be right click. And then of course you got your 2 buttons over here. You can probably key map this to however you like. So let me just try to move around the screen a little bit. Big circles, and you can see I'm barely moving my hand around here to make these circles big. So if I just move my hand just a little bit, I get a circle about that size right there. I'll try to use the paint bucket here. Yeah, it's definitely gonna take some time to get used to this, but I think overall it's pretty cool. It does work pretty good, and I think if you spent some time with it and you messed around with it a little bit, it would be a lot easier to get used to, and then at that point you would definitely have a more comfortable feeling. I'm just so used to my hand being over top of the mouse that this is like super unfamiliar territory. But it's not uncomfortable. It does get, I mean, it is really easy to hold. It's easy to move around, but you're moving in just a different orientation, it feels like, because you're trying to push and pull instead of your hand just dropping down on top of it. So it's probably more psychological than anything, but it does feel a lot different. Try a little bit of red here. And the select tool. If I'm trying to move to an object like this circle here and I'm just trying to get directly to it, it feels a little weird. And I think that's because you're using different muscles. At the same time, I feel like I want to try to hold my try to lift my hand up off the table. And I'm not sure exactly why I want to do that, but I do feel like I want to lift up on this a little bit. So let's just try one more thing. Try to make a shape. Go here. I'm also noticing that I'm wanting to put my pinky down. Push my pinky down on the table while I'm doing this. Not sure why that is either. But it's definitely not, it's just not that natural feeling. But of course, I've used a mouse since I can remember, so this is definitely a different feeling. Next, we're going to check out some key specs on this, and then we can go from there and decide if this is something that you guys want to check out. Okay guys, so we're here at Amazon's website, and we can see the JTech Digital Vertical Ergonomic Mouse wired with Chroma RGB, LED coloring, and adjustable DPI settings for gaming. I'll get back to that, show you the RGB setting. We didn't go over that yet. The palm rest is what we've already seen, and there's also the thumb buttons there. If you look at here, it talks about the ergonomic design, and that it's designed to be utilized in a neutral handshake, wrist, and arm position to make the mouse movement smoother. It does have 5 adjustable DPI settings. You can switch between, it looks like 800, 1200, 1600, 2400, and 4000. So that's pretty sensitive, but again, you can adjust the DPI, and all that's going to do is make the mouse more or less sensitive depending on what kind of environment you're in. The palm rest is removable if you don't like it. Of course, we actually kind of like it. The cool part about this is it is compatible with Windows 7, 8, 10, XP, Vista, and Linux. And that pretty much allows it to go across all operating systems except for Mac, and we haven't really checked out Mac yet to see. Other than that, we're looking at the price point here of $29.95, which is not too bad. And next we'll come back to the mouse and we'll see if we can get that RGB to work so you guys can check out that. Okay guys, we are back and we got the mouse here. And if you look underneath the mouse, there's a button here, on and off. And what that does is it turns on your RGB. So the minute you turn that on, you got the RGB here, and it starts glowing different colors. There's this cool little purple line that goes around it, and then it changes to blue, and it just goes all the way through the color spectrum, which is pretty neat. The DPI setting is this button here, so if you tap this button you can make it more or less sensitive when you're moving it around, which is nice. I like my DPI fairly high, but that's also on a normal mouse, so this one I would probably have to play with it and see what works out best for me. Other than that, guys, that's it. I mean, it does have a great feel to it. It definitely works right out of the box. You don't really have to mess with it too much. If you like the RGB, you have the RGB. You can adjust the DPI. The only thing you have to get used to is that vertical position. But I definitely think that it would work out in the long run to have your hand in this position once you get used to using this mouse.